My metabolism was my belief. When I really started working on what I believed about my body, fear and scarcity and restriction and shame, everything is connected. You are not giving your body enough fuel. And so today I want to go over 3 ways that chronic calorie restriction impacts your hormones, your health, your metabolism, your performance, and the relationship that I wanted to establish with my body, how you're eating, how you're training, how you're moving, and your beliefs. Welcome back, and today I want to ask you a really serious question. And is it, do you want to survive or do you want to thrive? Because if you are an active woman and you are eating less than 1,800, and I would say for most women, unless you're extremely petite, less than 2,000 calories a day, and this ties right in with carbohydrate restriction and the downregulation metabolism that goes on with prolonged calorie restriction. You see, our metabolism is dynamic. It isn't static. And your overall just sense of well-being. So the first thing that happens is when we don't eat enough calories, carbohydrates, we have a down regulation in our hormones. I talked about this in the last video. And this goes, you could be eating enough carbohydrates, but if you're not eating enough calories, this will still impact you. And so your hormones require adequate fuel availability. And in fact, when women fall below a very specific threshold of 30 calories per kilogram of lean body mass a day, that signals to the body to downregulate all hormones, including estrogen, progesterone, thyroid, and just overall metabolic rate. And so if you're an active female and let's say you're 140 pounds, this means that if you eat less than 1,500 calories, then you are already turning these signals on. But here's the kicker. It's 30 calories per kilo of lean body mass a day, plus energy expended through exercise and daily activity. So you can see how you can very quickly get to at least 2,000 calories a day. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, that doesn't make any sense because I've been eating less than 2,000 calories a day and my body hasn't changed. If anything, I'm gaining weight. I can't lose weight. My body fat percentage isn't where I want it to be. And that is just a reflection of the brilliance of your body, because the longer you are underfueled, basically the more conservative your body becomes with the energy that it is receiving, and it downregulates all those systems that I just explained to you. And so you will maintain your weight on low energy availability. And so it's basically you're maintaining your weight at an intake when you could be eating, let's say you consistently eat 1,600 calories a day, and you could be maintaining the same weight plus 1 or 2 pounds because your carbohydrate stores would actually be full at 2,100 to 2,200 calories. Now I can hear the questions going, but don't you need a calorie deficit to lose weight? Yes. But a chronic long-term calorie deficit does not lead to continued weight loss. It leads to continued downregulation and actually makes a calorie deficit less effective. When we eat mostly at maintenance or even a little above maintenance, and we're signaling to the body and the brain that there's enough fuel on board, if you do need to lose body fat and you go into a calorie deficit, the body will release the fat, but it won't release the fat. It has been continuously underfed over a long period of time. And the other thing is the emotional and energetic cost to not eating enough. When you don't eat enough, you increase anxiety, you decrease dopamine, you decrease serotonin, you're not getting enough of the right carbohydrates that are absolutely essential for feeding the gut. So there is a direct connection between your gut health and your mood. And if your gut is suffering because you're not eating enough, and I think the latest statistic is over 30% of people have gut issues. Now, of course, this isn't all related to low energy availability, but I see this all the time with women who are either chronically dieting or going on these crazy fad diets or really immersed in diet culture and not eating enough of real whole quality carbohydrates consistently to give the gut the fuel it needs to thrive. And the third thing is the metabolic slowdown and the way that your training is impacted. So if you don't eat enough calories and carbohydrates, then your body becomes extremely efficient, and it's called the constrained theory of energy expenditure. So when you go and you're thinking, I'm burning, let's say 500 calories during this workout, and your watch is telling you that this training session is burning all these these calories. Well, you can go ahead and just cut about 20% off of that right off the bat, because that's how much more efficient that your muscles are when you're not eating enough. So you already lost 20% of that energy expenditure. And then what the research shows is that if you are in a low fuel state, you actually burn about half as many calories. And to top that off, what happens is the rest of the day when that workout ends, if your body has been in a chronic energy deficit, it is actually slowing down all processes that utilize energy. Let's say your workout was an hour. Those next 23 hours, the body is actually conserving energy. And I have a really cool example of this, a personal example of this, because I have a home metabolic test, a breathing metabolic test that I would use to go see clients and test them in home. And I wanted to see for myself the impact. And this is how fast this happens and how it impacts our metabolism. And this was years ago when I wasn't nearly as fueled as I am now. And one day I decided to test my metabolism, go out for a morning run fasted, come back and test my metabolism. Now, normally when you exercise, your metabolism should go up. And even with endurance exercise, it should stay elevated. But if you haven't been eating enough, the metabolism actually decreases. And I remember coming home from my run and I waited about a half an hour, retested my metabolism, and it was about 200 calories lower than it was when I woke up first thing in the morning. And that's a perfect example of what my body was doing in order to conserve the energy that I expended running. When I started to get into weight training and started increasing calories and carbohydrates, I thought, it'd be really cool to do my metabolism again. Well, first of all, when I tested my metabolism first thing in the morning, it was already up a couple hundred calories from when I was in the high cardio anti-carb state. After I had done my training session where I was doing resistance training primarily with some cardio and really pushing metabolic capacity, progressive overload, etc., I tested my metabolism after that workout, and my metabolism was elevated by 300 calories. Now, I know that doesn't stay over the 24 hours, but the reason I'm giving you this as an example is because we have to remember that the body is dynamic and the metabolism is always adjusting to how you're eating, how you're training, how you're moving, and your beliefs. My metabolism was my belief. When I really started working on what I believed about my body and the relationship that I wanted to establish with my body, in the sense wanting to get out of that fear and scarcity and restriction and shame and move into a place of love and abundance and connection and compassion, everything is connected. And when we start to understand that the body is designed to thrive, and when the body is healthy and when you build that engine, you have metabolic flexibility, you have energy, you have vitality, you could be so much more liberal with your diet. And as long as you're consuming mostly real food, set way that people need to eat in order to achieve their goals. And in fact, what I do with my clients is I want to work with them so they find the best way that works for them, because I have clients who do better with a little bit more fat, but they just might have a little more fat compared to carbs. And then I have other clients that do great on really high carb. And when we move out of this black and white thinking and we really start to tune into our bodies and learn to trust our bodies, that's when the magic happens. So I just want you to really remember that your body and your metabolism always responding to the inputs that they're receiving. And so if you want a high, thriving, healthy metabolism, then you have to signal to the body abundance. And that abundance not only comes from the way that we eat, but it's also the way that we think, the way that we feel, the way that we move, and how we embody our body. I would love if you would continue to follow. I'm going to keep expanding on these topics. And if there's something in this video that resonated with you, I would love for you to drop a comment below and share your story.